Hey everybody, what's going on? It's James here with Crypto Common Sense, and I have your Bitcoin/cryptocurrency update for Sunday, February the 9th. Before I jump into today's content, please do me a huge favor. Hit the thumbs up button on this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to click that bell icon to get notifications when I release new updates. So something very important just happened a few hours ago, and that was our weekly close. It was the first weekly higher high since August of 2019, and it was a very important level because if you look, we can go all the way back here to November of 2017, and we can see that this was a line in the sand. Okay, let me put this on a line chart to be easier to see. It was support here, it was resistance here, it was support here, resistance here, and now we are above it, which is very, very bullish in nature. Okay, so as far as talking about new lows and things like that, I really think that we probably need to stick to this idea that that's on hold for now. I've been taking a lot of heat lately from a few bears who like to, watch my videos. They loved me, of course, for several months, and here recently they've gotten upset with me because I've turned semi-bullish. And just a few days ago, one of them was being very arrogant, talking about, you said if we closed above this level, we'd break 10K, and we didn't break 10K. You don't know what the hell you're talking about, blah, 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 right? Guys, if there's anything that you learn from my videos, please learn that this market takes time to unfold, right? It doesn't happen overnight, doesn't happen in straight lines, right? When I said it would go above 10K, if it closed above, I don't remember what the number was now, it had more to do with RSI, right? If we closed above a line of resistance in RSI, I thought we'd break 10K. And we did, right? It just took a few days. You gotta wait, right? If it happened overnight, it'd be great, but it doesn't, okay? So the next major line of resistance right now on a weekly chart, I'm not sure why this won't connect. It's going to be up around this area. And you can see that that was resistance back here in February of 2018. You can see that it was resistance in July of 2019. And you can see that it was resistance in August of 2019. And that's the 11.5 level. Now, ironically, that level lines up quite nicely with the bigger triangle. Watch this. If you draw a triangle from the all-time high in 2017 to the high in 2019, you get this downward sloping trend line. And then you can draw another triangle, or another trend line, that forms the bottom of the triangle that looks like this from back in 2017 to the bottom of 2018. And this is this large symmetrical triangle, okay? Now, I want you to take a look at where is this top line at, okay? Well, let's just see. Somewhere around the 11.2 area, right? If it got hit this week, it would be up around 11.4, right? Somewhere in that ballpark. Now, things are about to get even more interesting because this is the gotcha that I talked about in yesterday's video. This could absolutely be, and by the way, I'm not saying this is bearish, like we're going to go and, completely, capitulate or anything. I'm just saying this is one scenario that could be happening. We could absolutely be making a correction from a very, very steep downtrend. It could be correcting to its 61.8 fib. Right now it's sitting around the 50. The 61.8 is up around $11,000. So depending on when that hits that, again, that's kind of in the same ballpark. Okay, what would it mean if that's where we're going? Well, chances are, if we go straight there without correcting first, then we would see some type of correction. Maybe like this, where it breaks out like that. But what some analysts are thinking, and I really don't know, right? I'm not sure where this thing is going, but some analysts are thinking it's going to go up here and then finally capitulate and go back down to the bottom, down here somewhere. Could that happen? It could, right? It certainly could. I really don't know, guys. It's hard to be bearish right now, okay? There are some bearish things going on. The volume was very, sketchy, very questionable on this pump. It looked a lot more like bots propping the market up than it did retail buying, right? So that was very questionable. Most of the volume would come in these 5-minute candles where it was like, boom, they pumped it up, and then it would just kind of go sideways. And then boom, they would pump it up, and then it would go sideways, and so on and so forth. Didn't really look like organic growth to me. So it could be a fake out. But again, all of the fractals that I have been looking at, they've really all been invalidated, right? The 2018 fractals were invalidated. The 2014 fractal, the 3-day RSI was what I was watching. You can go back and watch previous videos if you want. But essentially, to me right now, it looks unlikely that that's going to play out. Well, I shouldn't say unlikely that's going to play out. What I should say is that it looks different, right? Noticeably different. So if I put this on a split screen, this is what I was watching here on the right-hand side, right? I was watching for RSI to stay in the zone because that's what happened in 2014. Way back, if I can get it to go back far enough. Okay, my triangles aren't there, but you can see here. Okay, my arrows are missing for some reason, but you can see it hit the top, hit the bottom, hit the top, and then capitulated 75%, right? So we have something similar, but the thing is this is the BLX chart, and so it hasn't updated. It's still showing you where RSI was at when price was 9,900. Price is now above that, so it could be that this is invalidated as well. So I'm just kind of playing it by ear. Like I said, I bought some of my spot back at 9,200. I'm still in that position. I'm still in some of my alt positions. My portfolio itself has done well over the last 30 days. But as far as trading goes, I'm still sitting on my hands for right now. There are no clear setups that make me want to short this thing, okay? There are no clear setups that make me want to long it either. This thing is obviously overbought, right? There's no doubt about that. I'm not a big fan of buying overbought assets. If you look at the 4-hour chart, there's some bearish divergence trying to come in. If you look at the 6-hour chart, I don't see any bearish divergence, but I do see RSI sitting up around 80, which is not just overbought, it's stupid overbought, right? On a fairly large time frame. So this definitely looks like it's due for a correction, but it's looked that way for a week now or 2 weeks now. We do have some pretty nasty bearish divergence on the hourly. We can see that higher high, much lower high there. But on hourly divergences, normally I'm going to see a 2 to 3% move max from wick to tail. Okay, so in this case, that's about 0.64%. Let's say it drops 2% off of that. That would put price back down at around 9,900 bucks, or excuse me, 9,990. So right around that 10 grand mark. Do I think 10 grand will hold? No, I don't. I don't think that 10 grand is going to be the new support. I think that it's kind of lost some of its luster. A lot of people assumed that once price broke 10 grand, it would just put in this massive green candle, and that didn't happen, right? I don't think people really care as much about 10 grand. It's been, too many times where it went above it and below it, above it and below it, above it and below it. It's kind of lost its, punch, if you will. My opinion, of course. Okay. I don't feel bad about taking profits on my alts, right? I don't feel bad about not buying back more Bitcoin than I bought, other than I missed a trade. Obviously, it would have been great to get the 50-60% move. But as far as do I regret not buying back all of my spot? Only because I could have sold it, right? Not because it's like, oh God, I'm never going to get a chance to buy more. I do think it's going to correct. I do think it's going to go back down. It's just a matter of how far it goes back down. Okay, so some people have kind of asked me, and I want to point out again that I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't give anybody advice. But some people have asked me, should I go ahead and buy my spot back? What if it goes higher? I can't tell you what to do, but it can go higher, right? So if you're concerned that you have no Bitcoin right now and you want to have some Bitcoin in case it goes up to $100,000 someday, I can't tell you what to do. All I can tell you is that historically Bitcoin corrects. It doesn't have to, right? It doesn't have to correct. It may go all the way up. For all I know, this might go up to 20 grand in the next 2 months. Highly unlikely, but anything is possible. So if you have no Bitcoin whatsoever, and you're worried about missing out, you're in a tough position. You are in a tough position because there is no guarantee it comes back down. What's interesting to me, though, is, again, if we measure this up to the 10.4, let's just say that, well, it's actually, I guess, 10.540. Right, if we measured up to that point, that 61.8 retracement is going to be down here around 8 grand. And the one thing that's very, very odd is that means that price would have to break back underneath its 200-day moving average, right? Because this is going to look something like this as this moves over. So it means it would have to break back underneath it, which is actually bearish in nature, right? So it's going to be a couple of months of frustration for everybody, I think, except the people who are just delusional, right? The people who are delusional and convinced it's going to 100 grand, they're not going to be frustrated because they're going to do what they always do, which is just buy until they get wrecked, right? Maybe they don't get wrecked this time, who knows? But I've seen a lot of people gloating on social media about, I told you so, I told you so, I called the bottom, I told you so. And a lot of the guys saying that called the bottom like 15 times, right? Well, eventually you're going to be right. Even a broken clock is right twice a day, right? If you were stupid bullish for 6 months during a downtrend and now you're bragging about being bullish, I mean, let's be honest, Bitcoin is still down over 30%, right? 10 grand is a hell of a lot less than 14 grand, right? Or 13.8, whatever price got up to. So for me, I'm just watching and waiting. I'm not in a big hurry to get involved here. Not in a big hurry to sell all of my assets. I sold, a good portion of them. I will be looking to buy back, but if it keeps going up, it keeps going up. No big deal. The thing is, and I want to point this out again and again and again so that people don't FOMO, right? And I'm not saying don't buy. That's not the same thing, right? Whether you buy is up to you, but don't FOMO. FOMO is an emotional thing, right? And it will cause you to make mistakes. But if you measure this from the bottom, and let's just say that by some quirky, crazy shit, that this thing went all the way up to test the old high here in 2019, right? Your 61.8 fib is still going to be way down here at $9,200. So from a hold standpoint, from an investment standpoint, right? If you're not worried about missing trades and you're just worried about getting Bitcoin that you're going to hold for years, this thing would have to go all the way up to about $16,000 without correcting before its 61.8 Fibonacci level would be where price is currently at, right? So you have to ask yourself, do you think that price is going to go up 151% without correcting? Sounds a little absurd, right? That being said, don't forget, back here, it went up 344% without correcting, right? So I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that, I play probabilities when I trade. If I want to buy a spot and I want to buy more spot, I'm going to wait for a correction. Even if it goes higher first, as long as it corrects lower than where it's at now, that's the right decision for me, right? So for example, say that it gets up to this triangle up here, right? Around 11, we'll just call it 11.3, right up in that ballpark. Well, my 61.8 fib, it's going to be down around 8,200 to 8,300 bucks, right? So again, it might go up like this, come down for like an A, come up for like a B, and then right down here like this, right? And then it might start back up. And if so, I might buy some spot Bitcoin in here. Depends what structure looks like. The other thing to watch for is there's a lot of people who trade the astronomical stuff. I don't trade it. I don't understand it. Just point blank. Not my wheelhouse. But they do have some historical data that does back up this idea that when Mercury is in retrograde, that price tends to dump on Bitcoin, right? Well, Mercury is going to be going into retrograde. I believe it's February 17th, which is, of course, just 8 days from now. So I'm going to watch that. I don't know that I want to open a short based on that alone. In fact, I do know. I know I don't want to just on that alone. If I can find some other factors, maybe. But I do think it's going to be interesting if it dumps. There's a few guys on Twitter who, one of them's pretty abrasive, right? He's very cynical and very abrasive, but in all fairness, he's had some really good calls the last year, and there's been a couple of times where I wish I would have listened to him. For example, in October when I was closing my shorts, he was saying, I guarantee this thing's going to 6,400 bucks, and I didn't listen, and it went to 6,400 bucks. Well, now he's saying that he knows, which is a bad word. I don't believe that word belongs in trading, but he knows that Bitcoin will go to 5,500 when Mercury goes into retrograde. I don't know if it will or not, right? But I do take that kind of in the back of my mind, like, he's been right pretty much this whole time so far, okay? I also saw an article, I wish I had the article now, but it was on Cointelegraph from a bull, a fairly famous bull, who was saying that he doesn't believe 6,400 was the bottom, right? That, I'm going to have to pull the article up because I don't want to put words in this guy's mouth. So this was the article, and my mistake, it wasn't that he was saying there might be a new bottom. He was saying that it might go back down to 6.8K, without some type of new global event like the coronavirus event. And this was Bitcoin Capital co-founder Joe. I don't even want to try to pronounce his last name because I don't want to be disrespectful. I'll probably murder that. But essentially, he's saying $6,800, right? Now, for some reason, I was thinking when I read this, it was saying that he was a bull. I'm not saying that now. But essentially, they were talking to him, and that was kind of his view on the market. And then they were talking from Sam from Alameda Research, which is, I believe, the company behind the FTX platform. And they both felt like, a correction was probably on the horizon. Tom Lee, who's a famous bull, says that he thinks it's going up 197%. Tom Lee seems like a really nice guy, but I don't listen to anything he says because he was actually one of the analysts that led me to come to the decision to hold most of my coins in 2018, and that decision ultimately led to a massive loss, partially based on his analysis. So I don't really consider him to be a reliable source of information. So yeah, this other guy is saying that he thinks that it could return to the $6,000 range. And then you have guys like Peter Brand who's saying that the bottom is in. I don't like listening to Peter either. Peter has a nickname on Twitter, Peter the Deleter. I don't know how many tweets he deletes or anything like that, but I do know that he was talking about Bitcoin looking toppy way back in May of 2019 before it ever broke $6,000, right? So now he's talking about it being bottomed out, and it's like, okay, right? Nobody's perfect, and I'm not trying to pin these guys into a corner and say, oh, they got one call wrong, they're bad. But like with Tom Lee, he was consistently bullish in 2018. He just continued, he would adjust his targets a little bit down, a little bit down, a little bit down, but he stayed bullish during an entire downtrend, which is a very amateur mistake to make. It was very ridiculous of him to be going on television and be going out there and putting out these bullish targets when we were in such an obvious downtrend. And in Peter's defense, I'll at least say that, it looked reasonable to think that we might be topping around, 5,500 to 6,000. I might have a correction. I thought the same thing, but I wasn't out there telling people that I thought I was going to correct at those levels. So, whether we go down or not, I don't really know. Obviously, that's, thank you, Captain Obvious. What I do know is I'm not going to be longing Bitcoin at these levels. I'm just going to wait for the correction whenever it comes. Either it comes soon or it comes, at some point in the future. But that's where I'll be looking to put my money in once I know that, hey, it's found support. Other than that, I will just sit on the portfolio that I have, the spot and the altcoins. Okay, I won't be taking profits on any more altcoins. I took all the profits I need to take, and the rest of them I'll just hold as long-term investments. Okay. As far as altcoins goes, well, let's take a look at, let me pull up the right chart. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin dominance real quick. So this is Bitcoin dominance. Take it off the log chart. You can see here that it's getting to this bottom trend line here. So far, it's finding support. That's not great news for the alts, but I don't know. This might still come back down and touch this again, right? This is more of a kind of a ballpark. I don't really put 100% faith in this because, again, depending on how you draw this, if you're drawing it from closes, you might even get a bottom line that looks something like this. Okay, lots of different ways to draw this potential triangle. Okay, some people might draw it like this, right, where it's already broke through it. Some people might draw it like this, where it's broke through it. Some people might say this is the triangle where it's bouncing right off of it. So it's just a general indicator. But if this does continue moving up, if it gets a couple of days of upward momentum, I would expect that it might be trying to go back up and test the top side. Okay. One thing that makes me a little bit skeptical of all this move, guys, is I said last week that a person could basically close their eyes and put money in any altcoin and make a good return. And as a perfect example of that, I randomly invested in ZRX. I don't even know what the coin is or anything else, but about 7 or 8 days ago, I invested in it. I did a video on YouTube. You guys might have seen that where I said, hey, I put some money in this coin. And in the last 9 days, it shot up like 50%, right? All of them are doing this, right? They're getting above their 200 moving averages. They're retesting them in some cases not. And then they're just springboarding off of it. So I put money into this at 0.2424, right around this level. And I took profits on part of the trade, still holding part of the trade, and I'm up 22%. I also put money in Algo, which I had never put money into before that point, right? I just still don't know what it is. I just knew that it also broke its 200-day moving average. It's not showing that it has a 200-day on Coinbase, but it does. You just have to go over to Binance. You can find it. There's this 200-day right there, right? So I put money into it as well. I actually put money into it. No, I'm sorry. I wonder why I put money into it, right? I thought it was because it broke its 200-day moving average, but no, I put money into this at 25 cents. And look at this. This thing is now up 38%, like 40%. And those were like just, I mean, they're basically what I call punts, right? Small trades that were just kind of like, this looks pretty good. I'll throw a punt on it, right? And they're all doing that. So when you get to that point where you're looking at your portfolio and all of your coins are going up 1%, 2%, 5%, 8% every single day, not normally the sign you're looking for where it's like, okay, I want to go long here, okay? Again, doesn't guarantee anything, doesn't guarantee anything at all. It absolutely could keep going up, but I'm very skeptical that this move is going to keep going up, right? We'll see. I'm not a believer. Not a believer at all, right? And I don't mean I'm not a believer like, hey, we're going to $1,000. I just mean that I think we're reaching the end of this move and we're probably going to be correcting, right? It's just a reality of waiting and getting my money in the best I can, right? Based off of actual like support, not just prices. Not like, okay, it hit this price, I'm going in, right? Because remember, guys, back here in August, it put in a higher weekly high right there too. And then it collapsed, right? And this was really nasty what this did to people. And I understand why so many bulls got caught in this. And I understand why so many bulls were giving me a hard time when I started shorting this on this move right here. Because it did put in a higher high here and it did put in a higher low here. So it looked like this was just going to go up and put in another higher high, right? But that's not what happened. And the main reason that I was so bearish, even though the structure wasn't confirming it, was because of these candles, right? These candles right here. This thing with this massive wick, right? That's a sign that bears are in control. And then this had a massive wick. And then this had this great big wick. So to me, even though the lower lows and lower highs hadn't been put in, those wicks were making me bearish, okay? And that's why I started shorting it. I opened up my first short. I think it was 11.9 was the first place that I actually shorted Bitcoin, like an actual short, not just selling spot, but hey, I'm going to bet against you. And that was on this candle here. So yeah, we'll see how this thing plays out. I don't have a lot of information for you right now. I'm just going to wait and, I might not do a video for a couple of days because I don't want to do a video every day saying, I don't know, right? I'd rather wait until I have a little bit better feel about where this market is going, and then I'll do another video and say, okay, this is what I'm saying. This is what I think might be happening. So with all that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you subscribing, and I appreciate those of you who, even when you disagree, do so in a respectful manner. I think that's the way we can all learn, is to be respectful and to post opinions that are based on charts and things like that versus just being, malicious toward each other, which is what, some people choose to do. So I appreciate those of you who are mature adults. All right. This is James with Crypto Common Sense. Please remember, I am literally some guy sitting in a spare bedroom. So nothing in this video is financial advice. Nothing in this video is trade advice. You should always do your own due diligence before making any type of investment in cryptocurrency. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure and give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And don't forget, you can check the description for links where you can follow me on TradingView, Twitter, and where you can join my free Facebook group. Again, this is James with Crypto Common Sense, reminding you to please trade safe.